March 12th, 2018. I'm standing halfway up this beautiful mountain. Got my red, white, and blue jersey on, snowboard strapped to my feet, and I'm just moments away from sliding into the start gate for the gold medal round of the border cross event at the Paralympic Games in South Korea. And I paused for a moment just to soak it all in, and I get this big old smile on my face because in my mind, I've already won. Everything that I've been through, adapted to, and all those opportunities I decided to take a chance on, they all brought me to this moment, racing for a gold medal for Team USA. Dang, I think about this. This is nuts. And I just mentioned two key words that have been really significant to me since I became an amputee: adapt and opportunity. Now, adapt is to adjust to a new environment or a condition. Kind of like when you get thrown into a new, uncomfortable situation, and you got two options. You can sink, or you can quickly learn how to swim. You can just get by and survive, or you can really make the most of it and you can thrive. See, we don't always have a choice in the situations that we're put in, but we always have a choice in how we react to them. So make the most of it. Choose to make the most of it. The other word is opportunity, which is a favorable juncture of circumstances. A door opens up for you, and you've got a chance to do something really awesome if you're up for it and willing to take a chance. See, we have opportunities coming in front of us quite often, but more times than not, we just let them fly right on by because we're not willing to get out of our comfort zone. We think the risk is too high, and we're afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. The most successful people in this world occasionally fail, but the difference is what they do with it. They learn from it, and typically don't make the same mistakes twice. And then they don't give up on it until they've achieved what they're trying to accomplish. And, this reminds me, as I'm working my way up through the ranks of snowmobile racing, I made a lot of mistakes. I learned a lot, but I never gave up. Eventually, I reached my goal. I became a professional, and I was living my dream, racing against the best of the best in the world. I had a few great years, which brings us to December 13th, 2008. We're in northern Michigan at a national snowmobile event. First race of the weekend, I get a horrible start, and I'm charging through the pack about halfway through the race. I hit a hole funny, and I get pitched off the side of my sled. I'm flying through the air and impact the ground feet first at about 35 miles an hour or so, and on impact, my left knee buckles 180 degrees, and I go tumbling off the side of the race course. I stop moving, and I'm on my back, and I look down, and I see the sole of my boot on my chest, and I just grab it, and I throw it down. It just freaks me out. Instantly in the most severe pain of my life. A few moments later, the EMTs finally get to me, and they can see that my leg is broke. It's flopped over to the side. And they reach down to get a closer look, zip open my pant leg, and I just remember that sound, just whoosh. So the compound fracture that had happened, it had severed the main artery that supplies my lower leg, and my pant leg filled up with blood, and I'm bleeding out on the side of the race course. And at that moment, I knew this was extremely serious. They got me wrapped up into a sled and brought me down to the ambulance. At that point, I met up with my wife, Sarah, who's a nurse. She immediately went into nurse mode and did everything she could to keep me calm as I'm freaking out. We get loaded into the ambulance, go to the first hospital. Unfortunately, they weren't able to take care of my situation, so they had to set up a transfer to a trauma center, but unfortunately, the snowstorm had moved in, and the helicopter couldn't fly. So we had to get back in the ambulance and drive across northern Wisconsin through a snowstorm to Duluth, Minnesota. 5.5 hours after my injury happened, I finally make it to a trauma center. I'm barely hanging on after all the blood I'd lost and the pain that I'm going through. The doors swing open to a team of nurses waiting to roll me in. And at that moment, I knew that I can relax. I'm finally in good hands. And everything kind of faded away from me for the next few days. I wake up, my entire family's in the room around me. My wife's by my side, the doctor's right there, and they continue to tell me that, Mike, we got a tough decision to make here. We're running into some major complications, and we're having a hard time with circulation. We're pumping blood in, 45 units of blood to this point, but it's not continuing on through your body, and your tissue's dying, and it's poisoning your kidneys are shutting down, and you're in a really bad spot. And at this point, we think it's the best case, or the best option is to amputate your leg just above the knee. And I'm like, amputate? Are you kidding me? From a knee injury? I mean, this was not on my radar at all at this point. But he continued to, explain the severity of it. And me as an athlete to hear this, it blew my mind. It's my job to be physically fit and active. But as he further explained it, my leg is not worth my life, so let's move ahead. Later that day, we amputated my leg, and we'll figure it out as we go. I spent a total of 13 days in the hospital. 5.5 weeks later, after the injury happened, after a roller coaster of physical and mental challenges, unbearable phantom pain, it was finally time to try that new prosthetic leg that we've been working on for a while. It was a happy day. I mean, after everything I'd gone through, it was finally time to make that next big step. I slide into this leg, and the first thing I noticed was I've got 2 feet under me. I mean, it sounds pretty simple yet, right? But, when you're missing one and you finally get one back, it's like, heck yeah, this is a big step. I did get the walking figured out really quick, and then eventually, me being me, it's time to go riding some snowmobiles. I pretty quickly realized that, this leg is not going to cut it for riding snowmobiles. But I made it work anyways. But later that spring is when the next big thing happened, when I found out about Summer X Games Adaptive Supercross, dirt bike racing for amputees and paraplegics. I'm like, yeah, this is me. This is just for me. This is my new life goal. I'm going to go after it. What do I need to do? Well, the biggest challenge was getting a prosthetic leg that would allow me to ride the way I did. I couldn't find anything, so I took it upon myself to solve it because I'm a garage guy. I'm a problem solver. I think back to all those experiences that I had through my life in metal fabrication, which is my second passion, is building and creating things. So I use that experience. Working with all the physical trainers and physical therapists as an athlete, I understood body mechanics and muscle structures, bone structure. The years of experience working on my snowmobile and dirt bike equipment, I understood suspension components. Because basically, I'm trying to recreate suspension for my legs so I can hit those big jumps and ride on that rough terrain. Get me back to my happy place. So I hit the drawing board. I worked on it for about a month. After that, I got to the shop and I started building parts. It took me about a week to get all the parts done. That last day, I've got the last piece. My hands are shaking. I'm like, oh yeah. I was like that 16-year-old kid getting the car keys for this first time. He's like, yeah, this is going to be my freedom, right? Well, this was going to be my freedom to get back on my dirt bike doing the things that I loved, and I was excited about it. I rushed home. I assembled my leg, got onto my dirt bike right away, and went for that first ride. And within a minute, I was like, oh yeah, I was the happiest guy in the world. I am hauling ass down the trail, roughest section of the trail. I'm standing up, balanced side to side on my foot pegs, and I feel normal. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to X Games. 7 months. Thank you. 7 months after my injury had happened, I'm at Summer X Games Adaptive Supercross on the gnarliest supercross track I've ever ridden on my entire life. I pushed myself to the limit. I pushed my equipment to the limit. I scared the heck out of myself several times. But I made it happen. I brought home a silver medal out of that race, and it was as good as gold to me after everything that I had gone through and made happen in such a short amount of time. It was an incredible feeling. The year following that, I continued to work on this equipment, develop it further, and after meeting so many other adaptive athletes, I realized that there's an opportunity here. These guys need this equipment. I can help out so many others with this, and I saw an opportunity, a business opportunity. I have no experience running a business, but I believed I had something good. So I took a chance and started my company, BioAdapt, in 2010 to get my moto knee and eventually the VersaFoot out to other amputees to achieve their goals. And not too long after that, I met up with a veteran while I was racing snowmobiles at X Games, and he's a above-knee amputee, adaptive snowboarder. He's like, hey, Mike, I see this new leg you're working on. Does it work for snowboarding? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a snowboarder, but mechanically it should. I'll get back to you. So I went home over the next couple months, and I learned how to snowboard from scratch and as an amputee. It wasn't pretty. But I learned enough to meet up with Keith later that spring and have him try it out. And the reaction that he gave me from that was unreal. And that was a big moment for me, being able to see the positive impact I could make on someone else. And he was pumped. He was one of my very first customers. And after that, I continued to snowboard, basically just to help other amputees learn how to use my equipment for riding. I got pretty good at it, and eventually, me being the guy that I am, I'm a competitor, I got talked into racing border cross, which is like motocross racing on a snowboard, minus the handlebars and race gas. It's pretty wild. And it went well, so well that in 2014, I got a phone call from the U.S. team coach. He's like, hey, Schultz, I see you got some pretty good skills there. You know, I think if you really commit to it, you could be a contender at the 2018 Paralympic Games. And I'm like, whoa, that's cool. Totally not in the direction that I'm going with everything, but wow, that's really neat. But honestly, I don't think I could do that. That's a huge commitment. I've got this new company. I've got a 1-year-old daughter, and I'm a motorsports guy. I went home and talked to Sarah about it a little bit, or talked to her right after that, and we were kind of on the fence about it because of the commitment. I was going to pass on it, but then we got to thinking about watching the Olympics and seeing those athletes win a gold and be on top of that podium when their national anthem's playing, that flag's raising up on that center pole, and seeing the emotions in their face. And I think about, wow, what does that feel like? I have a chance at possibly seeing firsthand. I can't pass it up. This is a pivotal moment in my story where I could have easily said, no, that's too far from where I'm headed. But we went for it. And over the next couple of years or few years, I was on the team racing snowboards around the world. I had some great success, but had a major injury in 2016, which sidelined me for over a year. I crushed my right heel into 15 pieces. Yeah, it was actually tougher to come back from that one than my amputation almost. But I wanted to see how I could recover from it. We were about a year out from the games. I could hardly walk, much less ride a snowboard at the same level I did before. But I went for it anyways. At World Champs, I ended up with a 4th place, which was okay, but it was okay, but I knew I could be better. I knew I could be competing with the guys at the top if I was 100%. But I don't know if I could have got back to it. I wasn't sure if I could get to 100%. And so I was still on the fence. The next year was an enormous commitment. And we're not making any money at this. But we get home, and Sarah and I talk about it, and we come to the agreement that, you know what, we're invested in this. We can't let it go. We got to go for it. So from that point on, we decided we're committed 100%. Over the course of the next year, I had my best season ever. Undefeated in border cross up to the games, which got me on the official Paralympic team. We arrive in South Korea to my first unforgettable moment when my U.S. teammates chose me to carry the red, white, and blue through opening ceremonies. It gives me goosebumps every time I look at that image. It was such a powerful moment, the ultimate honor for an athlete to lead the country through the ceremonies. A couple days later, I wake up, it's race day. I am a bundle of nerves. I'm a mess. I'm like, Mike, hold it together. You're falling apart here. You've been through stuff like this before. Oh, man. I was a mess. I was like shaking, and my stomach was turning, but pull it together. You know how to do this. Focus on the task at hand. So I calmed myself down, and I made it through the intense qualifying. You win, you move on, you lose, you go home. Well, I made it all through with no mistakes, and I'm finally up at the start gate for the gold medal round against the Netherlands' Chris Voss. And I pull up to the gate, and I think to myself, this is it. This is what I've been working for. My ultimate goal was to be able to perform under pressure, and here we are. Visualize my run, gate drops. I pull out with everything I got. First feature, absorb, press. Second feature, absorb, press. Ease around the first corner, light on my edges. Over the next feature, whoosh. Oh, did he just crash? Oh, no, focus forward, focus. You're not done yet, keep on going. I make my way down the rest of the course. hit my marks, no mistakes. I come around a tight right-hander at the bottom, and I look over my shoulder, and I don't see him. Oh, I'm going to win. No, focus, you're not done yet. I make it down around the last corner, over the last jump, and I fly down through the finish line, and boom! I'm a gold medalist. At that moment, I was hit with the most overwhelming feeling of accomplishment I've ever had as an athlete or overall at anything. Not because I just won a gold medal in snowboarding, but it was everything that had to happen for me to get to that point. Everything. It was such a wild ride, and so many things happened. I continue on, and I make this right turn, and I look up at this 30-foot wide giant TV, and there's Sarah jumping up and down, screaming her face off, tears running down her cheeks. You know, this moment is just as big to her as it is to me, because she's been by my side through all this since the beginning. We just won gold, babe. Dang, that was an awesome moment. A couple days later, we line up for our second event, bank slalom, where we go through this long day of exciting, intense racing against the clock. I come up just a little bit short behind my teammate Noah. I bring home the silver, he brings home the gold, but you know what? I was pretty dang pumped anyways, because I built Noah's leg for him. And my company, Biodap, sponsors him, so it was a win-win. There was a total of 15 athletes competing at the games using the equipment that I developed, and I worked personally with every one of them at some point. So the games was a lot more than just me being an athlete. It was about a much bigger picture. It was so incredible. See, every experience we go through in life, whether it's a good one or a bad one, gives us a chance to learn something if we're paying attention. Knowledge learned through experience is the best tool that we have to get through life and to really make the most of it. We can use that tool to adapt to the challenges that come up in front of us, and we can use it to wedge and wrench our way into all kinds of new opportunities. And at some point, if you're willing to take that chance and keep working at it and not give up, that opportunity might just turn into a golden one. Thank you.